I've actually been physically assaulted twice while running. The first one was in 2010. It was really late. It was a Sunday night, and my husband was packing for a work trip, and our doorbell rang. And so I went downstairs, and when I opened the door, this man was standing in our doorway. And so I screamed. My husband comes running downstairs, and he took off. And so at that point was when I told my husband what had happened.
Hey guys, my name is Nikki Renfro. I'm a recently retired state trooper, and I decided to start a podcast, Safe Nation Podcast. We're covering safety, security, and law enforcement. Yeah, so I really appreciate you joining me. Dena Lewis, right?
Correct.
Um, right, Running Mate app. So when I first, I don't know how I stumbled upon you. I may have been just kind of looking through the internet. I don't know what was going on, but and I ran across you and I thought, well, I haven't heard of this app before. And who is this beautiful woman who's come up with this brilliant idea? I
Thank you.
love it. I love it. So you're the founder of Running Mate.
Correct.
And so I want to, before we get into all of everything about Running Mate, because I do have some questions and I've got some comments and all of that about the app and everything. I do want to find out a little more about you. What is your background exactly? You're not an app designer.
No, no, I'm not actually. So first and foremost, I'm a mom. I always say that first because I've got two beautiful kids. One's 20, one's 19, both in college. So I'm also an empty nester now for the first time. But I've been in corporate America for 20 years. So my background is in medical device sales and management is pretty much where I come from. I have owned a few businesses. We've owned brick and mortar retail. I've owned a online retail and services business, and then prior to leaving Texas, we had a CPG, which was manufacturing wholesale to retail. So I've kind of done a little bit of everything, but for the most part, corporate America is where I've spent most of my time. So being an app developer is all new to me.
It's all new to you. Now, I do know that you're an avid runner.
Correct.
Um, and I think I heard that you run like 10 to 12, 15, some crazy amount of miles every single day. Like who gets up to do that every single day? Your dedication is amazing,
Well,
by the
thank you.
way. But tell
Thank
me
you.
about your running. Is that the only sport you do? Is that what you that's is that the only thing you do for exercise?
Yeah, it's pretty much all I do. I mean, I do yoga and strength training as well, just because of you are right, actually. My husband says I have a problem. I have a running problem. There's support groups for people like me, but quite honestly, I mean, it's just kind of morphed over the years from, just doing a couple of miles and then increasing my mileage based on what I was training for at that point in time. And then once I hit kind of the ultras, that was my sweet spot and I just really loved it. And so for me, that 10 to 12 a day it's kind of necessary. I mean, my body just doesn't feel right or function right if I'm not putting some miles on it. And so Sundays are normally my days off. I at least take one day a week off. And I know that there's probably running coaches out there that every time they hear this, they probably roll their eyes and they're like, this is not how you do it. This is, you're supposed to do this day and this that day, and you're not supposed to do that many miles and you have to recover. And I get all of that. But for me, it's just, it's my time. It's my sanity. It's kind of the time I have to myself. It's when I process everything. And then also, I mean, to be quite honest, so I've been through two assaults, and for me, it's also a control thing. It's empowerment. To be able to run the kind of distance I do, I just feel strong and I feel empowered. And so, yeah, so that's what I do.
I think the most I've ever run was maybe in high school. I did run track in high school, but never the long distances like that. I mean, I hated it. I hated distance running. And then the coach would make you do like cross country. Oh, it's going to get you, it's going to get you ready. I'm like, I hate cross country, So to hear you running those for those distances is admirable to say the least. You talked about the assaults And of course, on this show we talk about safety, security, and law enforcement. And so my ears perk up when I hear you mention a crime like that. And I believe that's the whole reason why you started the app. But tell me about this first assault, because you said assaults with an S, you made it plural. So tell me about the first one, if you don't mind. How long ago was it? And what time of day did it occur and what happened?
So you're right. There's been two. I've actually been physically assaulted twice while running. The first one was in 2010. My kids were babies. I mean, when I say babies, they were in preschool and kindergarten. And I was doing everything right, supposedly, all the boxes that we're supposed to check, except I wasn't running with anybody, but I was carrying a mace. I had notified my husband. He knew where I was. Back then, our cell phones weren't quite as savvy as they are now to be able to track, but my kids were in school and he'd gone off to work, and it was honestly a beautiful sunny day. It was not early, which is odd because that's normally when I am running. Because of work, I normally was always the one that was out at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. because to run the kind of distance I do takes, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And so this was not that time. I was in an area I knew very well. I was about a mile from my house when it happened, and there were people around. So I did everything right. And this man grabbed me, pulled me off, and he assaulted me. And I was able to get away. Um, I was in shock and disbelief. And at the time, when I ran home, I just really didn't know how to understand what had just happened. Did I do something? Did I do something wrong? What did I do? It was just this instant, what did I do? Why did this happen to me? Was I looking like I wasn't carrying myself properly? Like there were just so many things running through my head at the time. But the one thing I did not do is I did not call the police. I get asked that question a lot, like, why didn't you report it? And this is the one of the reasons why I am not at all judgmental of women, because I've been there and I know that we all have our reasons. And there's actually a really high percentage statistically of women that don't report. And at one point, I probably would have said, that's crazy. Why in the world wouldn't you report? But having gone through it, everyone has their reasons. Mine was that and not to be too graphic or anything, but he had left bruises on parts of my body that I knew if I reported, or I thought anyway, that if I reported, I was going to have to expose. And so for me, that just wasn't an option, because I felt like I was going to have to relive it all over again. So that, and I was again still in shock and processing, but I didn't even tell my husband that it had happened. And so he came home from work that night. I was in a foul mood. Just, how was your day? I didn't want to talk about it. I kind of became very just to myself and introverted. And 3 days later, it was really late. It was a Sunday night, and my husband was packing for a work trip, and our doorbell rang. And so I went downstairs, and when I opened the door, this man was standing in our doorway. And so I screamed. My husband comes running downstairs and he took off. And so at that point was when I told my husband what had happened. And so we called the police, and the police showed up. They did find him. He was actually hiding in our backyard. And so he was arrested. But I became like this. I felt almost like a prisoner in my own home. I didn't want to go outside with my kids. I didn't want, my car was always parked in the garage. And I got to the point to where I wouldn't even open the garage door until myself and my kids were safely in the car and doors were closed and locked. And then I would open my garage door. I mean, I just became super paranoid, and I stopped running. And so the statistic for that is 21% of women, if they've experienced some sort of assault, that they actually stop the activity. And I was part of that statistic. So it took me quite some time to work through everything. I got counseling, I got therapy. I did eventually get back to running, but not until after we moved. We didn't move for that reason. We moved for other purposes. But once we moved, I started to feel safe again. And so I got back to running. And then lo and behold, it happened again, but not until there was like 12-year gap between the first one and the second one.
Well, look, this first one, I'm trying to take in just this first one. This guy, did you know him? Was he from the neighborhood? Was he watching your house and watching your movements to know when you went to run? And did he know your habits?
That's the answer I don't have. I don't have the answer to that question. I have to assume he did because he knew where we lived. And like I said, the assault happened about a mile from our house. So he had to have known, but I didn't know. Like I didn't even know, I didn't recognize him or realize until the day that it happened. So it's not like I had seen him previously. And since then, I will say my situational awareness has been very different. And again, I was much younger. I think sometimes as younger women, we also tend to feel a little bit invincible, like it'll never happen to me. And my biggest concern that day when I got home was, thank God I'm alive and I'm going to see my family again. And so I know that's not always the case, with the list of women that we could talk about, but I got to go home and I got, a second chance. And so I don't know if he had been following me, but I very quickly realized there were a lot of things in my life that needed to change. And one of them was that I had to stop thinking I was invincible and I needed to be more situationally aware of my surroundings.
That's good. That is so good. I'm grateful you survived that one. And I hate to say that now we have to talk about another one. So you said there was about a 12, 13-year gap
Hmm.
of time. By this time, you were living in a different area, a different
Hmm.
neighborhood.
Different area.
And yeah, so tell me about that. What time of day? What were the conditions like? Where were you running? Was it on a trail? Was it in your neighborhood? What
Yeah,
happened?
so that one I can't really say a lot of details about because it is still ongoing. But I can say that it was also daylight. It was like 8:30 in the morning, and it was in my neighborhood. So that's one of the things I tell women a lot is specifically with Running Mate. They say to me, "Oh, well, I'll never use this where I live. I probably will only use it when I travel." And I think that's great. That's amazing. But the statistics are that there's a higher statistic that you're going to get assaulted where you live because you do tend to let your guard down and you feel safe versus places we travel. We're more situationally aware. We're constantly looking over our shoulder. So yeah, both of them happened where I lived, and I was carrying a mace both times,
Oh, good grief.
but I
So
didn't use
now,
it. That's the other piece I preach a lot about is personal protection. And if you're going to carry it, make sure you can use it and make sure you will use it and you know how to use it and that it's in a place where you can use it.
yeah, that training is important. Training and
Mhm.
practice is important with that. So now tell me how we got to the app. Is the second one, is that what sparked this idea about the Running Mate app? And what is it?
Yeah, so it definitely did. Where the idea originally came to me was during COVID, and again, I this was prior to the second assault, but I was still working because I was in med device. I was in the healthcare space, and so for me, I was still having to go to work every day when most people were on lockdown. And I was in San Antonio, Texas, on the river in a hotel on the River Walk. And I literally remember at 4:30 in the morning thinking, I have the choice to run or not run. But during that time, running became even more important for me because it was the only time that I was actually outside and felt like I didn't have to have all these, hazmat and masks and, everything else on. I could just be free and I could go and I could run. But the world was really scary then because most people were at home. And so the people who were out, a lot of them didn't have good intentions. And so anyway, I remember putting my shoes on and thinking to myself, I would literally pay someone to run with me right now. And so the idea kind of gave me a little nudge, and I ignored it, went about my way. And then some months went by. The idea hit me again. It was a little bit harder this time. I'm like, okay, okay, got it. But I ignored it again. And then finally, I just got a full-on shove, and that shove did come later on. And so I started trying to find an alternative to running alone. And the problem I had is that nobody could go when I could go. When I traveled, I didn't have anybody to go with. So even though I may have a great buddy at home or somebody I could rely on at home, like my husband would hop on his bike and follow me when I would run. But I
Mhm.
couldn't find people that could run my pace. They weren't going to run my distance and they weren't super reliable. So I found myself still there were mornings that I wanted to go and I was relying on someone to be there and they call at the last minute and be like, yeah, I'm not coming. So then I was going alone. And so all the other things I was doing, the tools, I call them the tools in the tool belt. I was doing all of those, self-defense, mace, situational awareness, running in daylight hours, not running on a desolate trail, like all the things we're supposed to do. But I realized I could reduce my risk even more by having a buddy. And so, I've been in Ubers my whole career, well, later part of my career, and I'm like, why isn't there something like this for runners? So that's where
Yes.
Running Mate came from. So it is literally like Uber for runners. We match verified safe mates with runners when the runner's ready to go. So if it's 4:30 in the morning, if it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever the runner is ready to go, they have the ability to match with somebody. The great thing about our app is that we take into consideration that a lot of women don't like to run with people. So women always have control of the pace, the distance, whether or not they even want to talk to their mate, and then who they run with. And so we give people the ability to look at the profiles of all the mates that are available and pick the mate that they want to run with.
Mhm. That's excellent. I was talking with someone today and they said, and I said, well, as a woman runner, what are some of your fears when running? And she said, I'm just afraid of the time of day. I'm so afraid to do it when it's dark. She said, I would prefer to run very early in the morning before daylight, but I'm so afraid to run. And I said, if you had an app that would match you up and pair you up with someone to run, would you use it? She said, I would absolutely, hands down, use it. And I said, okay, I'm going to share this with you and I'll give you the information. So I'm sure there are lots of other women who feel the same way about that, because there is safety in numbers, right? You feel safer. You're going to be less of a target. If something happens, you at least have someone to help you, at least get away from there or fight the person off. So, um, I'm probably not the best at maybe having a running mate or running in groups because I'm the slow person at the end and everybody's mad at me, right? But I do believe there's safety in numbers. What are some other tips you think for women? So we have your app, and tell me where we get it, by the way. Where do we find this app?
So it can be found on both the App Store and Android. So we're available for both. We've been very strategic about our launch because we're making sure that, I mean, I just didn't want to create an app and throw it out there, just to generate revenue. If we're not bringing value, then we're not doing any good. And so it's really important that we're doing good. And so anyone can download it, anyone can build their profile. But if you are in an area that we haven't officially launched yet, then you can't utilize it. And the reason for that is because we want to make sure there's enough mates in that market for someone to actually be able to use the app. We're growing faster than we expected to. We initially were only planning to launch in 4 cities year one, and we're already in six, and we've only launched, we launched the beginning of May. So we're growing really fast, and the concept is caught on, and people want to sign up and join and try to figure out how they can, not only be mates, but be runners. So that's been a great thing. But I want to go back to something you said a minute ago too about, you're the one in the back, you're the slow one. But that's what's great about our app is that you can be a walker. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can walk with this app too if you're looking for a walking buddy, because everybody who comes on this platform creates their desired pace. And that is, we have algorithms that more perfectly match people based on what you want that you put in your profile. And so that's kind of like our secret sauce, but it really can be for anybody because one of the other things that when I was doing research and product market validation that we realized is that running groups, running clubs are also very intimidating for a lot of women because they don't feel like they're the fastest or they have to worry about, well, do I need to stick around and be social afterwards when really I need to go to work or I need to get home and take care of my kids, and so that doesn't always work for women. Um, and so I did want to make sure that we were trying to create something that was actually going to be applicable and be utilized by our majority market. I mean, anyone can use our app, but our target market is women.
Okay. So on there, so if I want to sign up and get on the platform and find another slow runner like me, what information do I have to put in on the app?
So when you first come on the platform and create your account, you build your profile. And whether you're building yourself as a mate or a runner, there's a lot of questions we ask. We'll ask you, what is your preferred pace? What races have you done? What things are you looking for? Is it more important for you to be safe or to go sightseeing or both? And so there's quite a few questions that we ask in that beginning profile process. And then you complete a background check, which we are partnered with Checker, who is the world's largest background check provider. So this isn't just us, going and hunting and pecking for people. Like we trust them. They are our trusted partner to take care of all this information. We also don't hold that information. And then once you're cleared for your background check, then you can go and complete the rest of your profile. So let's say you're the runner and you go to create a run. You would literally click on create a run on the app. And then at that point, you're going to set every single time. You get to choose your pace. So let's say today you want to do, a 15-minute mile. That's a walk, or a 20
See, you're
minute.
laughing. You're laughing at 15 minutes, but there are people like me who really may have a 15-minute mile.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, listen, that's
Don't
perfect.
laugh. Don't
No,
laugh at me,
I
okay?
I don't mean for it to say. But yeah,
Don't
so
be a
you
mean
can.
girl, right?
No,
Don't be a
I'm
mean
not. I promise.
runner.
Listen, I'm not a fast runner. I may go far, but I do not go fast. So I get past all the time, and it drives me nuts. But yeah, no, I'm not fast. I just go far. But no, so yeah, you pick your pace, and then you pick how far you want to go on that particular run. And then there is a toggle that you can say you're wearing your headphones or you're not wearing your headphones. And we train our mates that if they say, yes, I'm wearing my headphones, they don't want to talk to you. They likely just want you to show up and be there. So once you
Oh,
do that, the app is going to actually generate a list of mates that you can read through and pick. So you can read all their profiles, you see their picture. And what's great about it is like say maybe you're training for a 5K and you really want to match with somebody who's got experiences in coaching, you can read that. If they're a running coach, are they CPR certified? Like there's so many things that they can put in their bio that allows you to have more information about them. And then you click book now. They get notified they have a run. They review your profile, they accept the run, and then they come to you. So, kind of a lot like Uber, you don't ever have to leave the space you're in. You can actually pick your dot of where you are located, and we do geolocate. So you'll see yourself on a map, and you can either type in the address, you can put the pin where you want it, and even so, like if you are going to go somewhere else and not where you're located, you can actually put that pin where you want it to be, and they'll come to you there. Because a lot of women don't necessarily want someone to come to their house, and so they can move themselves like down the street or across the street or something like that. And then they come to you, you watch yourself on the run. So, a lot like Uber, we drop breadcrumbs along the way so you can see where you are. And then when the run is complete, the runner takes you back to where they picked you up from, and you can leave a tip or a review. Money never changes hands like person to person, it changes hands on the app, a lot like Uber.
I see. So, how does a person get kicked off of the app? What are some things that would get a person disqualified?
So anything questionable or suspect behavior. So we actually have someone who is like a community organizer. So again, another way we differ from Uber is that safety is our number one priority. And am I going to sit here and say 100% nothing is ever going to happen? No, I can't say that. For obviously for liability purposes, we are going to take all precautions to make sure that we can mitigate all of that and make sure it's not happening. But what can get someone kicked off is if someone leaves a review, which is why we really encourage our users to leave reviews. If you're on a run and you're like, this is weird, I'm not sure about this. We see all of that. We see all of that behind the scenes. We also vet our mates. So besides just passing a background check, we do outreach and we do training with our mates. And so we're kind of building that training program now and what that looks like because we want to know who these people are. We don't just want people to sign up and look to make gig money, that we really need to know who these people are that are running with our runners who are trusting us to provide them a safe partner and vice versa. We have to protect our mates too, which
Right.
is why runners have to be background checked as well because I could be a mate where I live and I'm just as much at risk as a female mate as I am a female runner. So we have to protect everybody on the platform.
What cities are you in now?
So we are in Austin, Boston, Tampa, Charleston, Salt Lake City, and Atlanta. We have the most
Oh,
presence in Atlanta.
okay. All right, great, great. So is there a way on the app to maybe hit an alert button or sort of like a 911 button? Is that feature offered?
So we are actually working on that right now, and I'm glad you asked because that's been a really big question lately. Initially, we were running off of you can utilize your phone to dial, to call alert police like you would any other time. But we've been getting this question a lot. So we're working on something that would be equivalent to like a beacon on Strava to where you could alert the authorities to your location instantaneously, and it would be a quiet alert. So that's something that we're currently implementing and hope to have in place by the end of the year.
Okay. And the runs, so the runs are tracked along the way. So is the
Mhm.
route tracked and then, okay. All right. Well, good. Yeah. I mean, it makes you feel safe, right? Just hearing about it. I think it's an awesome idea.
Well, thank
And
you.
yeah, I just love it. So what's in the future? What new developments are kind of in the future? Can you give us a sneak peek?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one thing I want to real quick go back on is that and mention is that one of the reasons why I created something like this and not something like another personal protection tool is because, again, if you look at all the tools in the tool belt, statistically, if we are running with a buddy, we reduce our risk by 69%. So the best way to prevent something from happening is to not be alone. All the
Right.
other things are just complementary and should also be utilized. Like there is no one size fits all or one tool. But as far as what's next, we are really focusing on community outreach and just making sure people know we're here and partnering with the right people, whether that be families of victims or news organizations. But publicity is really, really important for people to understand that we are part of the tool belt, and that there is an option out there so people don't have to be alone. And then future plans are that we want to be global by 2025, late 2025, early 2026. That's our big game is to be able to be offered anywhere in the world. And then we're working on something called Running Mate Pro, which is fun and exciting, is where if people want to actually book a run with a celebrity or an athlete or an influencer in a certain city, that we can partner with these people and they can actually set their own price. So if you want to, run with an athlete and they want to charge $400, again, they set the price, but we would do a charitable donation match to a domestic violence charity depending on how much they charge for their run and how much they donate, we would do a charitable match. So that's called Running Mate Pro. That's probably about 2 years out because obviously revenue generation is going to be really important for us to be able to get to that point. But it'll make it a little bit more fun, but it'll also get more of the community involved.
Yeah, that's really I love that feature. I predict it'll be less than 2 years though. I think
I hope
I
so.
think it'll happen way sooner than 2 years. That's too good of an idea for it to be that long.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
I love that. So is there anything else you'd like to share?
I mean, so one other thing I would love to share is that we created at Running Mate, we created something called the Female Runner Safety Summit. And basically, what that is that it's a group of companies who have runner safety as part of their mission. So we have a self-defense company in our portfolio, we have a mace company, we have a situational awareness company, and we have a clothing line that's specifically geared towards women that have pockets in specific places where we can carry things.
We
And
love our
so
pocket.
yeah, yeah. And we love our pockets close by that we can get to them. And
Yeah.
so we've partnered with all these different companies. And what we basically do is we go around to different events, whether it's universities, races, we go together as one, the Female Runner Safety Summit, and we educate people on things they can do, steps they can take. We provide resources. So we try to provide resources for, like, if it's, say, a running store and they want to partner with the companies that can help bring protection for their community, we provide those types of resources. And then the biggest thing is just continuing to bring awareness. And that's been really, I think, successful for each of the companies that are involved in the summit. As one company, we're doing things, but as multiple companies coming together as a group, we can do so much more. And we're not working against each other, we're working with each other because we genuinely want to make a difference for female safety. So that's probably been one of my most rewarding projects that I've worked on is just kind of starting this group within Running Mate. So if anyone's interested in getting involved, they can reach out to us and we can let them know how to get involved.
Okay. What's that website?
So it's under the Running Mate website. So if you go to Get Running Mate, we actually have a link on there for the Female Runner Safety Summit, and there's a bunch of information. And then there's also a form that people can fill out if they're interested in reaching out to us.
Okay. And then your socials, how can they find you on social media?
So we're mostly Instagram. That's where we do most of our social media, and we're at Get Running Mate. So everything for us is at Get Running Mate, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and then our website is www.getrunningmate.com.
Okay, great. Well, this was fun. I think you motivated me now to get back out there, especially since the weather's cooling off too. It kind of, for me, that maybe motivates me just a little bit more, not quite as hot. So you never know, I might show up on the platform.
Yes, please do. You're in Atlanta, right?
I'm in Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got great mates in Atlanta. We can match you up.
It sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Dina. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Lots of good information that I know women will benefit from. So, best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.